Good afternoon and welcome to Fire in the Belly. Today we have myself, Pete Launton, and our guest today is Paul Coghlan. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Pete. How are you? Good to be here.
Indeed. So tell us where are you calling us from? Give us a bit of background, who you are.
My name is Paul Coghlan, as introduced. I'm 41 years old and I'm from Westport in County Mayo, where the sun is shining. So it's absolutely stunning here. A background to me, Pete, is that my life in 2018 was kind of where I wanted to be. I was in a great relationship. I have a daughter and I have two stepdaughters and my partner Linda. We were all in a fantastic place. Mentally and physically, I was in a fantastic place until suddenly a mouth ulcer and a sore throat changed my life. So that's kind of where I am right now.
It's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to this. So tell me this: what does Fire in the Belly mean to you?
Well, when I got the invite from you a short while ago, the minute I heard Fire in the Belly, I just thought, wow, that's to me is something I'm passionate. Passion, there's a bit of hunger there to achieve what we're meant to achieve, really, you know.
No, it's a lot. No, that's good. So tell me, give us a bit of background. So where are you from originally? Where'd you grow up and family and stuff like that?
Born and bred in Westport here, so it's a nice tourist town. But I think it was back in 2016 or 17 or so, something, we got voted the best town in the country. So I'm very proud to be a Westport man. I've got three brothers. My mum and dad. My dad sadly passed away in 2013, and coincidentally, as my story goes, he had a huge factor into my life, really. Even after he passed away.
Okay. So brothers, sisters?
Three brothers, Martin, Ian and Shane, three fantastic lads, three very supportive guys, and three guys that helped me through the adversity that I faced back in 2018, even last year, really.
So where do you come in the rankings then, for oldest, middle, or
youngest? I'm number two. So, I wouldn't say I was the favourite. I was kind of known when I was growing up for being the kind of black sheep. I'd be the one who'd, be late home or be first up but gone out of the house, and I'd be the one who didn't do things as per the book, really. Didn't do an awful lot wrong, but I wasn't the perfect student or anything.
It sounds like you were quite independent then from an early age, were you?
Yeah. I've always been strong-willed, and if I could do anything by myself, it was going to be done by myself.
Yeah. So come here, if we were meeting you as a child, what would we have seen?
Wow, that's a very interesting question. You'd have seen a determined, passionate guy who did his best to show respect, because I was always brought up with from my father, with the two main words that I had to use daily were please and thank you. And I think that has made me into the person I am. I feel like I'm respectful, and more than anything else, I'm authentic. I mean, I've learned, particularly in recent times, if you're not real, I think that you're only fooling yourself and the people around you that you surround yourself with. So I'm authentic and I'm real, and when I go into my story in a short while, I'm very open and very honest, and that's how I want to be, and that's how I want to be remembered, really.
So as a young chap then, knocking about, were you into school, or were you more outside of school?
Played a lot of football, cycled the bike a lot, met a lot of friends and this type of stuff. School and me, we got on fine, but when it came to studying and exams, I didn't have a lot of interest. I was more into work, like I started working in a pub that my father was a manager of I think I was about maybe 1990, so I was about 12, so I started stacking the shelves. I pulled my first pint for a customer at 13. Of course, if you were seen doing that now, you'd be locked up, or the bar would be closed. So, times were different back in 1990 and a couple of years after that,
Well, come here, were you paid for your job?
Are you a taxman?
No.
No, look, at the time you were kind of paid in Coke and crisps. And I availed of that. I still have a love for crisps, as you might have imagined. So.
What's your poison there? Potato, cheese, and onion by chance?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Or actually, a development happened when in 2019 where I became addicted for about 3 weeks to Pringles salt and vinegar.
Oh, okay.
There was a reason for that. I had lost my taste buds,
Hmm.
and I needed something to stimulate them. So I tried everything, and somebody brought in, when I was able to meet friends, somebody brought me in a pack of Pringles salt and vinegar, and after that, my appetite came back.
There
So
you
it's,
go. So
yeah.
you don't work for Pringles by chance, do you know?
No, but and I really hope they don't sponsor me because I'm on a bit of a fitness buzz,
Yeah.
so I don't need any free crisps or anything.
So tell me, so your first job then was working in the pub, was it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I worked in pubs part time up until I was about 35. I
Mm.
just love the banter of like a pub, the crack, the lads coming in. You see, some guys not leaving in great shape, and some guys leaving with a girl who was probably punching above their weight a little. These are all of the things that you see in the bar trade.
The barman gets to see a lot. I don't think
Absolutely.
people realize, it's everyone else is having a great old time, and like I
Yeah.
said, the bar tray is great, but you see the whole thing without having the drink, so you
Yeah,
remember.
yeah. And it's being a barman is a tough life,
Mm.
because on social hours and yeah, so that's why I kind of stepped aside. I just when I've got a daughter who's nine now, and I just thought, yeah, she doesn't need to see dad tired every morning, so that was why I kind of
Mm.
stepped away. Really.
Mm. So what did your parents do then?
My father was a barman for just over 30 years.
Hmm.
A local bar, actually local to our house, only maybe 500 or 600 meters away from the house. And he
Hmm.
worked for the Cadden family, a fantastic local family, for just over 30 years. My mum was a banker. She worked in the Bank of Ireland in Westport for many years. I'm not sure. She retired early. She got a good package, so she retired early, and she did a huge amount of work around our local town here for social services and meals and wheels and that type of stuff. So we basically came from a reasonable background.
Mm.
We didn't have everything we wanted, but as kids growing up, we had the two vital ingredients for a happy childhood, and that was a football and a bike.
Mm.
And a line that my mother used regularly was "Get out from under my feet."
Hmm.
So we had you were outside, it was active, and it was. I have beautiful memories from that.
Yeah. That's great. So obviously you must have been quite a strong part of the community there. It sounds, obviously with your mother in the bank and your father in the pub trade. And
Yeah, we couldn't do an awful lot wrong now.
mm,
Because if you did something wrong, it would get back to somebody looking for a loan or somebody looking for a pint. So we had to behave reasonably well.
mm,
We
mm.
got away with a little bit as we kind of went, but overall, yeah, we didn't do too badly.
And would you have palled around with your brothers, or would you have been doing your own thing? Or
I spent a lot of my time off doing my own thing because my older brother is 5 years older, and the third lad is 5 years younger than me.
okay,
So we would have had different circles growing up, really.
yeah, yeah. No, that's it. So you're a man of the GAA then. You're out doing the football.
GA, soccer, rugby. These were all of the stuff I used to do. I
Mm.
tried boxing. That didn't last very long. Got battered. But yeah, look, at sport was a huge part of my upbringing. I'm a Liverpool fan, so that might turn off some of your listeners. But
Mm-hmm.
you might also get a bit of traction. We're in a good place at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, look, sport was massive, and it was a great social thing for us growing up. Really, I mean, 1990s, there wasn't an awful lot locally. Like there's been huge development in this town recently with swimming pools, etc., etc. But for us, there was grass and there was imagination and there was a couple of jumpers or a couple of hats that were used as goalposts, and this was what we had growing up, and it was
Mm-hmm.
great. It was absolutely super.
Yeah, and you obviously love the place because you're still there as well. So it's obviously,
Love it,
yeah. I
absolutely love it. Yeah, yeah.
was
I
going to
can't
say,
imagine at 41 I'm going to be leaving anytime soon, but
fair play, fair play. So you're through secondary school. Then, what had you any inclinations of what you wanted to be when you grew up or anything?
Uh, no, my grandmother had this thing that I was going to be a priest. That was never going to work out.
I ask
And
why?
uh, well, I was a bit mad. Like you see, I was always the one who'd be like, jumping up behind somebody, pouring a glass of water over their head, or just something mischievous, really. I guess you could say.
Mm,
But no, I didn't really. I considered. I loved accountancy, and that was something that I got offered in college, and I decided I was going to work for a year.
mm.
So I went into factory work, and I became a lithographic printer. And with that came wages and deferred college for another year. I did the apprenticeship in the printing trade, and I'm still in it to this day actually. So
Well, so printing is your.
yeah, look at it. It's a good job. It pays reasonably well. I like working with other people. I'm very much kind of a team player. I kind of like having guys around me that I can speak to. An office job, I don't really. I don't think I would have had the patience for it. It wouldn't have been enough for me, really.
Mm. So would you say you're quite hands-on?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
And what I'm actually doing now, what I'm looking forward to doing is I became a speaker, a keynote speaker, and a motivational speaker, and this is because of the adversity that I have faced.
mm,
This is something that I could never have imagined when I was growing up, because even though I was pretty popular and I had a lot of friends and I had a good circle around me, I developed a stammer when I was about 12 or 13. And this stammer began to really impact me as a young teenager because, you know, when you couldn't speak, people were very quick to kind of jibe you or to kind of take the mickey a little bit. And of course, with somebody who has a stammer, that can be really hurtful. Not
mm,
not on the outside, but inside you're kind of going, I don't want to say another word. I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake, or I'm going to say a couple of words a couple of times. And I'm sure during this podcast, I will stammer a small bit. It hasn't gone, but it's improved dramatically. So the thought of becoming a keynote speaker with anything was the
mm,
furthest thing from my mind, really. So I've came a long way with that. I think that um, when you face something as a young teenager, it can last with you for a long, long time. I've used a lot of tools in my years growing up that to slow down, to be authentic, and to be real. Because I think that I stammered a lot when I was telling a little lie. Like it's not my fault I'm kind of late home, or it's not my fault that I didn't get my homework done. And these became kind of
mm,
things that I knew I wasn't true to, and I think that impacted me a little bit, if I'm honest. So for me to be where I am now, I'm I'm just I'm very proud actually to be where I am now, and that's even been on this podcast with you, Pete. It kind of shows that the fire in the belly, as you mentioned earlier on, is kind of back in me. I'm beginning to believe in myself more so than I ever have, and I'm very proud of that.
sure, that's great. So you were just going back a wee bit. So left school when?
1997.
Okay.
You should make me sound old, Pete.
I left in I think yeah 97 myself actually. So there you go. If I'm making you feel old, I feel old myself. So
Similar eras.
yeah, that's it. So so from there, so to understand, you deferred going to college, and that's where you went to the factory, yeah.
Yeah, I went to factory work. I worked in a company in Westport for 16 and a half years. Was made redundant out of that position because they were just changing their whole line in the factory, and just machinery wise, getting bigger machines in to cover small ones, etc. And I left that. I had a nice holiday with my brother and a friend of his. We went to the World Cup in Brazil for 3 weeks. So we had a good time. That was a phenomenal experience. I came back from that, and within 2 weeks, I got a phone call from another print factory doing very similar work in Castlebar, which is about 12 miles away.
Hmm.
And so I started back on that job, and I'm in that job to present. So I'm in that job for about 6 years this July, actually.
Fair play. So you're a good long-term employee then.
It kind of sounds that way, right? Doesn't it?
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, look, I am proud. I'm able to hold down a job.
Hmm.
And these companies have been very, very good to me. They've been very honorable to anything I've ever asked. So I fully do respect my employers.
Hmm. Fair play. So tell us about Brazil a bit. You were saying that was a memory.
Look, Brazil. This was spoken about by myself and my brother and a mate of his over in the States. For you always mentioned a couple of times, and there was maybe a few more of us going over. My younger brother was meant to be coming over, but he didn't. I think he fell in love around that time, so he had his priorities. We went over there. We went to a couple of matches. Look, it's a fantastic place. I mean, like where my brother got accommodation was uh, maybe 250 meters away from Copacabana Beach.
Oh,
So we were right beside the fan park if we weren't able to get to a game. Look, the atmosphere was fantastic. And
mm,
some people have this perception that Brazil is quite dangerous. When we were out there, they couldn't have been any better. Really, they were fantastic.
mm, mm.
A fantastic place, a memory. We kind of went up to see Jesus and said a prayer and all that type of stuff. Yeah, look at it. It was a fantastic experience, a life experience that I definitely wouldn't change.
Mm. Because I'm trying to think that statue on the hill is massive, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's yeah. I'm not a fan of heights, so it was. I had to save face, so I had to go on the tram and pretend I was absolutely perfect.
Yeah. Ah, fair play.
I didn't want to give my brother or his mate Craig, too much
I mean,
info upon me so early. So I had to save face.
fair play. So, so really, with Castlebar then, so you were moving into that. That's 6 years ago then. So we're 20.
Yeah, 6 years this July. Yeah,
Perfect. And obviously you'd had your daughter at this stage as well.
yeah, yeah. Sienna is fantastic. She's 9, and she's definitely the apple of Daddy's eye.
Hmm.
She's a fantastic kid.
Yeah.
She's just loving. She's caring. She's every attribute that I think every person should possibly have. So she's a wonderful, wonderful kid. I'm exceptionally proud of her.
Mm.
Exceptionally proud.
Well, you can tell that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
How was fatherhood? Getting into fatherhood for you?
Oh my God! At the start, she was absolutely awful. Um, I was scared. I didn't. I was scared and excited.
Mm.
I was over the moon. I was extremely emotional for the first couple of months because you know to have the ability to have a child is a gift in itself.
Hmm.
Um, we were very, very lucky. And I mean, to look at this child and to see it laughing up at you is like the most heartwarming, fulfilling experience that you can ever possibly have.
Hmm.
Now, myself and her mom are not together anymore, but we actually co-parent, and it is really fantastic.
Hmm. Hmm.
So as my daughter often says, Dad, I have the best of both worlds. Daddy's all about the outdoor, and Mummy's arts and crafts and all that creative stuff. Stuff I'm not good at.
Which is ironic coming from the print industry, right?
Oh, not the stuff. No, I'm a kind of hands-on printer, and all the guys that create all these beautiful things are not in my area anyway.
I love it. Yeah, because I mean, having a child is a real sort of chapter change. Really, it's a big change of direction for a lot of people.
Oh, it's absolutely massive. I mean, like you have all the time in the world. So every afternoon you want to go golfing, or
Mm.
in my case, trying to golf. You have time, and you can just say to your wife or your partner, "I'm back in 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours." You don't really have a responsibility bar,
Mm.
work and just spending time with your other half. Um, to then being, you have to have an answer to where you're going, what time you're coming back at, and that's not coming from your partner. That's coming from you being a parent,
Mm.
and that took me a little bit of time to actually adapt to. And it was after a little period of where maybe I struggled with the sudden change.
Mm.
I should have been preparing for this sudden change for 6 or 7 months, but as a guy, you think you're going to take it in your stride, and it doesn't really happen that
Mm.
that that, that way. And saying that, I think I adapted well, and I'm very proud of the little cheeky remarks that my daughter has, because I think they come from me. So I am proud.
Oh, fair play. No, it's always an interesting time having kids as well. I think more so for men as well,
Yeah,
because I know for my own, it almost took 6 months to get to know them and like them, and because at first, it's like it's different. I think for women who've grown them, and
absolutely. Yeah,
whereas you got to go the connection, and for the first 4, 5, 6 months, you don't see smiles, you don't see connection, but then it comes, and it's no, it's a beautiful thing. It really is,
that's a wonderful thing. Yeah.
you know. But no, so really through that period, then and through work. I mean, is it something there you sort of, what's your attitude towards work?
Okay, I have always gone in, did my hours. I'd be very time conscious. I won't be late. I won't leave early unless it's pre-organized or
Mm,
unless I can't work for a sickness or an illness. That's one thing that I've always had tied to my own bow. Really was that I don't ring in sick unless I'm really really sick.
mm,
I think there's a big element of karma there.
mm,
Um, work to me is work to me is going in doing something you don't hate, because I think to have a job that you love, you have to be extremely lucky. And I wouldn't say I love my job, but you know what? It pays my bills, it pays my mortgage, and I don't hate it.
mm,
That's where I am
mm,
with work, really.
mm. So tell me, I mean, your stammer. I mean, do you know where that came from? And because there's no indication of a stammer at all there.
Uh, do you know what, Pete? I actually don't know.
Mm,
I'm actually thinking, oh, maybe I should ask Mum sometime just for my
mm,
own
mm,
just for my own clearance, really. No, but I think as it got older, and you're kind of meeting girls, and you're looking to, get the kiss, your first kiss, and maybe just a town hall disco here in Westport. That became a real chore for me,
mm,
because I was so embarrassed about having a stammer that if I went over and spoke to this girl, that I would make a fool of myself. And one particular thing that kind of stands out to me was when I was 18, I got my first car. I saved up and I got my first car, and I brought it home, and I had to make it a phone call to an insurance company.
mm,
So I rang the insurance company. I'll never forget. It was about 10 past 10 on a Friday morning, and my mum and dad had gone to work. So I had the house to myself. And, you pick up the old phone, and you're out in the hallway in your house. And I rang, and I couldn't speak, so I hung up the phone. And about 45 minutes later, I tried a second time. Now, I was very excited. I wanted to go outside, sit in my car, and go, this is my own car. 45 minutes later, I tried again, and I couldn't get one word out. And I
mm,
dropped the phone, and I started sweating really badly. And I was like, oh man. So I went down to my room, and I changed my t-shirt, and I tried to compose myself, and I rang a third time. And on a Friday afternoon, there, back in whenever that was, 1998, uh, you know, they're obviously very, very busy. So I'm on the phone, it's ringing, and I'm waiting, and I'm on hold. And the more I'm on hold, the more I'm sweating. So I'm drowned here, standing in my hallway, hoping nobody's going to come into like the house, because that would have upset where I actually was
mm,
mentally. So this person comes on the phone. I'll never forget it. Her name was Maura, and she said, "Hi, how can I help you? This is whatever insurance company it was." And I said, hi," and eventually I found a balance, and I said a few words. And I think this lady must have noticed I had a bad stammer, because she gave me a lot of time. She goes, "Take your time now, and you know there isn't a problem." Of course, looking back, that was fantastic, but at the time I felt, you know, I'm putting this woman out. She's a professional person. I'm not a professional person. And I really felt awful. But eventually, 40 minutes it took to get my insurance. It should have taken maybe 10 or 12 minutes. When I came off the phone that time, I went down to my room, and I lay on like the bed, and I was emotional. And I don't think it was emotional because I now could drive my car. I think it was, Paul, you need to address this. So I basically had a chat to myself, and I kind of said that, Paul, let's slow down your speech a little bit, and I did a little bit of research, spoke to a couple of friends, but what can I do to make me not stammer? So a couple of my closest friends would have had a little bit more patience with me. And rather than hanging around in a group of eight or 10 lads playing football, I was hanging around with the same 2 or 3 guys. One was a cousin, one was a very good friend of mine, Daniel Sullivan. And it was them that kind of made me believe that, Paul, this isn't a big deal.
Mm.
So it was after that that I think I started to improve. And that became with self-belief. And it becomes, you're not a teenager now, you're 19, 20, and you're kind of, your life is getting better and you're believing in yourself more because you're earning and you're paying your way and stuff. I think that was all contributing factors.
Mm. But that's quite, it's an interesting use of language there. You sort of, you're actually talking to yourself, but you remember, how was the internal dialogue there at that time?
Look, there was obviously confidence issues somewhere. I didn't notice them growing up. Like my upbringing was very ordinary. It was very fine. There wasn't a bad atmosphere around my family home. I guess the internal thought was probably, you felt inferior. Now, inferior to who and what, I don't know. But there was obviously a confidence issue there that I have subsequently shaken, thank God. Now, I believe in myself probably more than I should, maybe, but confidence is good.
Would you been in any school plays or anything like that at all?
I did Irish dancing. Actually, it's kind of funny. I did Irish dancing in primary school, and the year I was finishing sixth class in primary school, my school was been demolished the year after, but they had moved to a new premises. And a colleague of mine that I do a little bit of work with, Pat Slattery, you had him on your podcast. I actually used to do Irish dancing with Pat's partner Donna.
Oh,
So
okay.
so when I was growing up and Donna was a model, that was my claim to fame, that she was my dance partner when I was 12.
There you go.
Yeah.
Love it.
They were great memories really to have. Fantastic. Donna's wonderful.
Mm. That's great. That's quite forward thinking as well, to be doing the Irish dancing. You're obviously very
Yeah.
active.
I mean, I actually don't even know if we had a choice. I think
Mm.
it might have been, you're not playing football, so you may as well go dancing or something like that. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Would you still dance?
Not at all. 2 left feet.
Oh, fair play, fair play. I love that. So yeah, so tell me, take us on a bit then. So really into you know, you're sort of working away there in your job, and what happened?
So I'm working in Castlebar, and in 2018, as I mentioned earlier, I was mentally and physically in a fantastic place. I really, really was. I was a good bit lighter than I am now, so we're kind of back to working on the whole fitness thing. And I developed a mouth ulcer and a sore throat. And if I'm not mistaken, when I was thinking about this earlier on, I think it was this date last year that I became ill with this. So this is funny how we're actually having this call now. And
18 or 19?
18.
18. So it's 2 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
And so I went to my doctor because it was affecting my energy levels. And the reason I went to the doctor so fast was because it was affecting my own training. I was training 5 days a week. So I wasn't able to train. There was one particular Tuesday morning when I went down to my local trainer. And it's usually a very heavy cardio set, but I really struggled from early on. So I was like, listen, I'm not feeling great. So it was more of a frustration how I couldn't train rather than not feeling well. So I was put on a course of antibiotics for about a week. And about 7 or 8 weeks earlier, I had my bloods taken. So I had a quick look like that and said, listen, your bloods are absolutely fine. So we're going to put you in this course of antibiotics. We think it could be a viral infection or something like that. So I said, fine. And I seen a little bit of improvement after maybe day 4 and 5. And then I was like, these aren't working. So I went up for a second course or a repeat course. And I was just told, keep an eye on yourself for the next couple of days and see how you're feeling. So a local pharmacist in Westport and a very good friend of mine, Tom Tracy, had kind of said, how are you feeling? And I had showed him that I developed an mouth ulcer on my tongue, which is exceptionally sore, ridiculously sore. And he didn't like the look of that. So we kept denying it. We tried to just do little things with it to get rid of it, but it wasn't getting any better. And as I said earlier, also, May the 9th was my dad's anniversary mass. And on that day, I deteriorated quite significantly in my health. We went to the mass, and after the mass, there's some aunts and uncles and my brothers were around, and we were just going up to a local cafe just to have a cup of tea and a scone and just talk about things just for a little while. And I couldn't swallow any of my scone, and to swallow a cup of tea was becoming a real chore.
Mm.
So I had contacted my girlfriend and like said, listen, I've got Sienna in the afternoon, my daughter. I said, I'm really feeling poorly. Do you mind coming over? Now, I'd never ask anybody for help, really, particularly with my daughter, because my daughter time is daughter time. And I'd be very much hands-on that way. And she came over and I went to bed for a few hours. And when I got up, I struggled to swallow water. And I said, look, tomorrow morning, I'm going to the doctor. I rang up, it was quite late that evening, and they squeezed me in for 11 o'clock appointment the following morning. So that was fine. And that morning, that evening, I dropped my daughter home to her mum, and I come out to the house, and I said, you know what? I said, I'm really struggling. So I tried to just drink esopidine in water.
Mm.
I couldn't swallow it. So I went to bed that night at around 12 o'clock. And at 5 o'clock, I got up to go to the bathroom, and I noticed I had a black eye. Now, where a black eye came out of, I kind of went, geez, was I messing with my daughter earlier on? And did she, give me an elbow either accidentally or maybe she was trying to stop me talking? And so this black eye is under my left eye, and I thought, this is really, really strange. So I hopped into the shower, and coming out of the shower, I kind of stumbled because I was exhausted, tired. But that was from a lack of sleep, really, I thought. And I kind of went, okay, there's something wrong here. So I went up to my doctor's surgery at 9 o'clock, and when he seen me, I sensed an air of urgency straight away. I just went, huh? He said, what happened that? Pointing at my eye, and I said, I have no idea. So he gave me a referral letter to go to the Galway clinic, which we might, the largest hospital. Really, there is one in Castlebar, but for this type of stuff, up to Galway. So I was feeling that week that I popped out to my mum and I said, listen, do you mind if you drop me to Galway? I want to get this blood test done. So I went to my pharmacist just before we left, and I said, listen, I said, I've been given this letter, where do I stand here? Because I trust in this guy, really, And he said, I'd like you to go and get up there, don't be going home for lunch or anything, just go straight up. And in hindsight, when I look back and I see that, he went extremely pale. I could see he was worried. So we got up to Galway at around 11:45 that day, up to the Galway clinic, and I had a blood test taken. And on the blood test, they come out to me and said, listen, your white blood cell count has gone ridiculously high. So we think, maybe we made a mistake or there's a contamination, so we get to a second one. So by 1:30 approximately, they had done a second blood test, and they went looking for my mum, and I sat in one of the cubicles in the accident and emergency area, and they came in and they said, we've no ambulance available for you, so can you drive Paul over as quickly as possible to the University College Hospital Galway, which is about a 15-minute drive away. My initial thought was, this can't be that bad. Maybe it is a virus. I don't want to miss another week of training. It can't be that bad because I'm in good health, and everything felt fantastic. So my mum asked some questions, and I have no idea what the answers were. But all I remember before I left the building of the Galway clinic was avoid accident and emergency, skip general admissions, your paperwork is on the way over, find the CLAD award as quickly as possible. So I just went, okay, fair enough. I'll do what I'm told. I'm usually good at that, actually. And I arrived to the CLAD award, and I was greeted by two wonderful nurses who greeted me with two words I'll never ever forget. Hello, Paul. I'd never met these people before in my entire life. So they knew who I was. This was the start of the roller coaster of events that'll forever shape the rest of my life, anyways, and that's for sure. Within 45 minutes to an hour ish, I had the first of many bone marrow biopsies taken. And that evening, there was maybe, 7 or 8 medical team wrapped around me with all sorts of bits and bobs and prodded and poked and cannulas put in and an operation that evening for a central line. And I don't know what was going on, but the one thing I've been given huge credit for is that I'm a very good patient. I'll do what I'm told, and that's something that ultimately stood to me in my on my journey through what my diagnosis was going to be the following morning. My girlfriend and my mum were in the hospital at that time. I wasn't privy to any of these conversations because there was so much going on behind the scenes and rushing in and out of room 18, which is a room I'll never forget. And the following morning is when a consultant called Dr. Yanis Krauchek and said, we're in a lot of trouble. And I said, okay, what is it? And he said, you have AML. I said, super. What's that? I had no idea. These letters I'd never even heard of. These 3 words I had only heard of kind of one of them really. And I was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia, which is a very rare cancer and the most dangerous of blood cancers. So, me being me, through all of my youth, as we've spoken about, I was never afraid to ask a question, or I was never afraid to, look for an answer, because, I very much, I kind of live with the thought process of, if we have a problem, let's talk it out and we'll find a resolution. So I pushed and I pushed and I pushed, and I said, I need you to give me a percentage chance on, where I actually stand on like this, and, how serious is it? And I kept on at that time complaining that I had a sore throat, and the nurses kept on saying, don't worry about your sore throat, we'll fix that. Don't worry about that. That was my only concern at that time. And I pushed and pushed and pushed, and the medical team, they had given my mum and Linda an answer, and the answer was that, Paul is extremely sick. So I pushed and pushed, and the answer I got from the medical team was, you've less than 10% chance. And I said, oh, that's fine. That's absolutely no problem. You're telling me I've 90+% to survive cancer. I said, I'm shocked, and this is a trauma to me, and I'm trying to process this, but yeah, I have no problem. And I was told to stop talking. And the words used to me were, you're on the low end of the 10% bracket to survive. And any infection that may happen in the next couple of days will ultimately take your life quicker than we expect. So you can imagine the shock and trauma of that, really. The following morning, with me being me, I developed pneumonia, and there was all sorts of panic stations going on. And at that time, I have absolutely no idea what happened. I have very little recollection, close to none really, between Friday and Tuesday. There was all sorts going on. They cured my pneumonia in about 20 hours by flushing fluids through me and whatever else the medical team do. I'm not sure. And there was real worry there that Paul may not see the end of Saturday. But I'm thick and I'm stubborn. I'm from the west of Ireland, so we're fairly solid. And I battled through. And when I came around on Tuesday morning, there was of my bed, and those words used were, we didn't think we'd see you. And we followed operations, and been very been as my doctor used a line one day to me. He said, I want you to be a good patient. And I said, Doc, I'll do whatever I'm told. And he said, do what you're told. And I said, for the first time in my life, I'm going to do as I'm told. And yeah, I mean, that was just the start of a massive journey for me, After this, became the very harsh realities that my life would never be the same. But how could I make it to be as good as I can be? And one thing I often focus on, Pete, is that I have a lot to live for. Maybe in my younger years, I didn't believe in myself an awful lot, and that had grown upon me. I've made some good and bad choices in my life, but I was in a good place. Going, you know what? I never thought I'd get fit again, and I got fit again. I was always a little bit sad, a little bit snappy. And when I mean snappy, I mean very quick to answer, and not always with the right answers. But I had developed, little tools, maybe from the exercise, to make me a little bit more placid and to realize what I have rather than what someone else has. And this whole period of my life became, like within the first few weeks of getting diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia, I started to set little goals for myself because I couldn't give up. And the reason I couldn't give up really was because, my girlfriend Linda, who's a phenomenal person and a real support to me, she needed me. My own brothers needed me, even though they may not agree with that all the time, because I'm a Liverpool fan. But my mum needed me, and my mum had buried my dad from cancer, just in 2013. So these people were going through a difficult time outside my illness, really, and that was about what happens if Paul dies, and what about his daughter, and etc. etc. So it was a very difficult time, but I started to set these goals, and they were very, very small, and some of them were like to walk 20 meters to an area where we could sit down as a little family. And I remember the first time I ever said, you know what, I'm able for this. I'm able to go, from the 3 or 4 meter walk to a bathroom in my own personal room up to this area, and I had to be brought back in a wheelchair because I had no energy. So going from somebody who was training 5 days a week, working exceptionally hard in the gym, harder than I ever thought I was capable of, to a guy who couldn't walk 20 meters without basically getting help, and got put in a wheelchair, but back into bed and needing a nap. So that was a very scary time.
When you look back, I mean, that's all happened in a very short period of time, right?
I mean, from feeling ill and having mouth ulcers to diagnosis was, like, I think it was 17 or 18 days. So that's a scary time, because you're not feeling well, but you'll always know it's going to end. Like, how many times have any of us had a mouth ulcer and it's annoying you when you brush your teeth? But mine was obviously extremely far more serious than just a mouth ulcer. So within those first couple of weeks, there was a lot of questions asked. I mean, the first morning, Friday the 10th, when my official diagnosis came in to me, like, that asked me questions about fertility and, did I want to freeze my sperm samples? And I know when I signed that particular document saying that, it doesn't matter about my sperm samples. I have a daughter. I'm extremely proud. I'm turning 40. So, kids were not really on our radar now anyways. Maybe a dog was about as much as we were ever going to add to the family. But I had to sign that document, and I know a nurse came in afterwards and she goes to me, they're very relieved that you didn't want to freeze your sperm samples because we don't have time. And I said, time for what? Like, is it busy? And she goes, no, I mean, you don't have time. We have to start you on chemotherapy within 24 hours. Otherwise, things are not good. And from what I believe, I stand corrected here, is that with the leukemia patient, they don't start within 24 hours because they want to check your organ health and all that type of stuff. So, that was when I realized this was exceptionally serious. And the next 9 days of my life consisted of 23 sessions of pretty hard-hitting chemotherapy, and that ultimately saved my life. And then, we spoke about the importance of organ health and what trauma you've put on your own organs. Like we all have different organs and they all react differently to different things. But I was asked some pretty intense questions, and I found them very interesting at that time. But now when I look back, I can kind of see their point. I was asked if I had been using any steroids when I was so fit, and my answer was a genuine no. I'd be fairly clean that way. I think my dad would have made us swear when we were teenagers never to take anything you shouldn't be taking, bar of chocolate. And I was asked about steroids, and my answer was a genuine no. And then I was asked about recreational drugs. And this is where I found it very, very odd. I went genuinely no. Have you taken, say for instance, at like the moment, I suppose the real trendy drug is cocaine or whatever. And I said a genuine no. And I remember asking the nurses months afterwards, I said, why was that question asked? They said, because it would have compromised the level of chemotherapy we could have given to you without it closing down your main organs. And if I had taken a recreational drug, ultimately I wouldn't be here because I needed every last milligram of chemotherapy that I had to take into my body, So that's when I looked back and went, wow, maybe living a little bit cleaner is, not a bad thing. And that became very, very important for me, really.
Had you much exposure to cancer before,
No, actually, coincidentally, it was the Christmas before my father got ill. We had just say at Christmas, we're having a couple of drinks around home, and we're actually saying, "Geez, aren't we very, very lucky that we haven't been impacted by cancer?" 5 months later, my dad died of thyroid cancer. I also had a girlfriend when I was 20. She was 17. And she died from cancer also. She's from a local village near enough where I live here in Westport. So she died at 17. So that was, yeah. So I guess when I think about it, I've had maybe a little bit more exposure than an awful lot. That was an exceptionally sad period. I think I was probably my most resilient at that time because I was young and I could bounce back. But she very much has never been forgotten in my life. I've mentioned her a couple of times to my own girlfriend about how life is short and how we need to embrace and appreciate everything that we possibly have in our lives. And that's massively important.
20 is young.
Yeah, it was very, very sad. Very, very sad indeed.
Mm.
So after that, became a lot of learnings for me personally. And I was in hospital for 6 months, and I only got out on 3 occasions, and one was for my 40th birthday. So before that, I spoke to my mum and to my girlfriend an awful lot. They were my 2 most frequent visitors because no more than at this period we're in now, where we're kind of social distancing. They couldn't get too close to me a lot of the time. And isolation, like coming into my room, they had to wear a gown and they had to wear gloves when I was at my most prone to infection. So when I look around the place now and I see wearing gloves or wearing a mask, it kind of unfortunately reminds me of where I was, So adhering to these rules and regulations that we have now, to me, are actually quite easy. Some people get embarrassed with wearing a mask if they choose to wear one. I'm like going, people would only laugh at you for about a second because they have their own stuff going on, So, I had to learn how to be more hygienic, really. I had to learn how to be more patient, which wasn't my greatest attribute before becoming ill, because I like to get things done as quick as possible, so I don't have to think about them and worry about them. But unfortunately, at this time, this was very much taken away from me,
Mm.
because of the disease that I was diagnosed with. I had to realize that patience isn't something that you can buy. Patience isn't something that you can just grow, but you may have to just break your day down into little sections. And sometimes my day was broken down into, going for a short walk around the hospital ward, or on some occasions, as I got stronger, walking 7 laps around the hospital ward, which equaled 1 kilometer. And the first time I did that, there was a really, really massive sense of achievement, because I could see myself getting stronger. But this was maybe, end of June, so I was in hospital maybe 6 or 7 weeks. I figured out that movement and interaction and laughter were going to become huge cogs into, into my own mindset, and how I was going to keep myself reasonably balanced. And like, the movement to me was getting out of like your room, going for a small walk. The interaction was, talking to fellow patients who were all individual, because everyone's cancer is personal to them and to their own story. And me being me, when I say interaction, I did a bit of flirting with the nurses, so I might get special treatment. I might get the extra biscuits, when it came to bedtime. And to laugh and have a good laugh with the people who were like strong enough to interact. I mean, I met some phenomenal people. I met some really powerful, strong people, some who are not with us now. Unfortunately, they weren't able to make it through. And some people that I stay in contact with, and some people who are actually still in hospital, or even back in hospital now. So their situation, I'm far luckier than them at this time. So I really do appreciate that. And then came a particularly difficult period in my life, where my mental health got challenged quite severely, really, because not so I don't have a mental health issue, but I regard my mental health at that time to be compromised. So I've called it situational depression, because I think it's very hard to stay upbeat and focused and mindful and appreciative of your surroundings when you're stuck in a hospital. Now, I would always give a shout out. I mean, the medical team and the nursing staff, to me, were just fantastic, and they kind of became family. That's how well we kind of got on. But they're just wonderful, wonderful people, really. And I mean that for every single nurse, not just for the nurses that I was, that were taking care of me and my situation. I'm sure a lot of your listeners could easily say that they've been treated equally well, and we all hear about a bad story or a cranky nurse or something, but they don't always have a good day either. And I think we all need to appreciate that a little bit more. So at this time, like, my body and my mind and my soul were all challenged, really, through my mental health. And this is where I did realize that the blood transfusions and all these type of things that went on, and the chemotherapy had ultimately made a huge improvement to my own body. But I very much had to ask the question of, what about my own mind? And when I do talks to schools and businesses and youth clubs and organizations, I'm very mindful that everybody is into kind of different stuff. I had to open my mind up to a little bit more than I would ever really have foreseen beforehand. But sometimes when your back is against the wall, you kind of have to open your mind up a little bit. So I practiced, and I still practice, visualization. And visualization to me is it's spectacular. I'll get back to that in just a second, really, if you don't mind. Just a couple of things that I have in my head. I got crystal energy healing done and Reiki done by my girlfriend. She's an energy healer. But I think I would have got them done even if she wasn't a healer. I definitely think there is a place, and quite a big place, for holistic therapies. I had to start to believe in myself a bit more. So I did believe in myself. My confidence was up, and I was believing what I was doing was the right things, making the right choices for me and my daughter, really. And I started to practice self-belief, self-care, and resilience. And I didn't know what resilience was, really. I kind of went, that's just been strong. No, there's a little bit more to resilience. So, the self-care to me was getting up every single day if I possibly could and taking a shower. The self-belief was believing that I could do that 1 kilometer every single day around the hospital ward. And resilience to me came into 3 different factors. And the 3 different factors to me were physical, mental, and emotional health. So without going too much into them, really, when I say physical health, I mean I had to become stronger, because I had went from a pretty strong guy to a guy with no strength. The mental resilience was, I faced challenge. I faced a lot of time away from my daughter. I found that exceptionally hard. She could come and visit me maybe once a week if I was strong enough and not going through treatment at that time. But the hardest part was, when she used to say to me, "Dad, I'll see you again soon, I hope." Because we couldn't have a plan. And that made me feel very, I felt weak, because, I'd be a strong figure for her. She can lean upon me. And now I felt useless and I felt lonely. So the mental challenges, you know, I guess they bed in with the emotional challenges and being emotionally resilient. I mean, I firmly believe I left hospital late October 2018, and I believe it took me a full year to kind of process the emotional trauma that I have taken on. There are still days, Pete, to be honest, where I sit down and tears run down my face, because my life will never be the same. And I very much think that I've done an exceptional amount of work on myself. Um, I have, I've done things that have benefited me with my daughter, that have made me think, yes, these are the little things I promised myself I would do. And yeah, we're kind of getting back on track, really. So yeah, it's that's just the journey so far, really. Uh,
God, it's what's happened and the journey. I mean, what was the connection, or is there a connection between the ulcer and the AML?
yes. So because your white blood cell count has gone bananas, so I think it should be between 7 and 12,000. When I went into hospital, I think within 3 hours. No, I'm not a scientist, so you kind of have to take some of this with a grain of salt. Uh, my first reading in the Galway clinic was 150,000. So that means that you've got about 138,000 leukemia cells that are having a party, and they're taking over your body. So I think, I mean, I should really have looked into this more, but I've kind of blocked it out a little bit. Because your cells cannot heal the little bruises or the little infections, it comes up as a bruise. But mine started off with a mouth ulcer, then a tongue ulcer, and then the black eye. I think that's the red blood cell count. I'll have to get back to you on that one. I'm not fully sure on that. My girlfriend had the toxicology background, so she was kind of doing all of the all of it, the math. The second blood test was 180,000, and by the time they had done the bone marrow biopsy that evening at approximately 5 o'clock in the University College Hospital Galway, it was like 235,000. And that was where these guys were taking over. Sorry, they had taken over really, and they were looking to take Paul Coughlan's life with it. That became a massive challenge really.
So the approach was a just full-blown dose of chemo?
Yeah. Oh yeah, there wasn't any rubbing your head or rubbing your belly for you to make you feel great like a dog. No, this was, Paul, we don't have any time. So within 24 hours of my diagnosis, I guess my unofficial diagnosis, where I wasn't told, it was from Thursday evening. I started around midday on Friday because they had to, and they were only trying to stop it really, as far as I remember, stop it from spreading rather than say trying to kill it. So mine was at the start was more of a case of let's try and stop it first and then see where we go. But I believe the pneumonia the following morning threw a bit of a scud in there. Yeah, but look at as I said, I'm pretty strong-willed. I think that benefited me really.
And obviously things were happening so quickly. I mean, what was your thought process, do you know?
Well, I'll go back to the visualization thing. That Friday morning after I was told, I had about 30 minutes, and I remember crying to my girlfriend because I was absolutely scared. I was petrified, and the only thought and the only person that came into my head was my daughter Sienna. And a year to the day of my diagnosis was her first Holy Communion. And I was told, ultimately, you won't see this, Paul. So, again, I go back to my point. I felt guilty. This is all my fault. How will my daughter, have a father figure around her? And I felt exceptionally. That was one of my lowest days. But I remember saying to my girlfriend, I won't use the same language. I said, I will see that day. There's no doubt I will see that day. So when we came through the first couple of days, my girlfriend had a very clear vision of things in the future. We can't change what's happened because it's history. So let's look forward. And when I got a little bit stronger, I started to visualize, getting home for a couple of days for my 40th birthday, or getting home to my mum's house. Getting home for my 40th birthday. So I didn't really understand what visualization was really until we kind of spoke about it, and I read a little bit about it, and without getting too much into it. We eventually started writing down stuff like, so what do you want at your 40th birthday? And I said, I want my family. I want a very close friends, if I'm allowed to have them from the doctor, because say I couldn't be near a child under 4 because they carry every little thing, and I couldn't be near an animal because I was so prone to infection during this period. So I said, geez, yeah, I want my friends there, and I want Croagh Patrick, Ireland's holy mountain, because as you look out my mum's house, it's kind of right there in front of you. It's an exceptional view. I want that. And she goes, what else? And it took me a couple of days. I said, I want the smell of fresh green cut grass, because this is what I was brought up with. They have a massive, beautiful lawn here at Mum's place. And what else? And I said, geez, I wouldn't mind a beer. So it got to a stage when we finished visualizing this that I could hear my friends laughing. I closed my eyes, I could hear my friends laughing, and my family laughing. I could picture myself fulfilling a promise that I told my daughter, and that was that she would cut Daddy's birthday cake with him. And it got to a stage, Pete, where I visualized this so much, I could actually taste a bottle of Carlsberg. And it was nice. And fortunately for me, every bit of that happened. A neighbor came and cut the lawn the morning I arrived home. So the freshly cut grass was right there when I got out of the car when I arrived. You know, and I had a very small circle of my friends here, and my family. And my daughter did get to cut Daddy's birthday cake with them. She also had the first slice of it, which was meant to be mine. I've never forgiven her for that. But you know, so visualization to me is something that I believe will happen honestly and openly, and I did that, and I was so happy. That night I went to bed, and it was another night that I cried because you know it was me. I made it, and now the next big one was Sienna's Holy Communion on the 10th of May, 2019. But you know, with that became an awful lot more challenging days, months and months of hospital stays. Like I was only getting chemotherapy 3 or 4 days a month, but they had to kill all the cells. That you know, you became neutropenic, which is very prone to infection, and they had to give you blood transfusions and platelet transfusions. And you know, so there was often a long wait. I mean, outside the first period in hospital, like I would have had up on 40 days stuck in hospital in what happened to be the most beautiful summer that I've ever seen outside the hospital. And I just sit under a shade because if I hadn't, I'd have fried because the chemotherapy obviously opens up all your pores and you become prone to burning. So yeah, it was an exceptional time. And somebody asked me only recently, you know, what made you believe that you could make it? And the guy that asked me is a guy, he's about 25 or 26. And in 2012, I coached a football team. And I was basically bringing young guys through to first team football at the local club here Westport United. And I remember we played a football team up in Claremorris, and we were 1-0 down at half time. And I said to the lads, whenever you think there's nothing left, whenever you think you can't do another sprint or you know, make another run to get a pass through, there's always 10% left. And he reminded me, and I said, wow. And that's why I've named my presentation when I go into businesses and schools and colleges and youth organizations, I've called it the 10% game. And people go, what the hell is like this? And, you know, people are confused by it. And eventually when you get talking, then people really realize, wow. So for anybody out there who doesn't believe in themselves or needs to take a little step forward into being more positive or making something work, there's always 10% left. And ultimately that 10% has me back here, back in Westport, and enjoying life more than ever, really.
Well, do you have any concept and thought of why?
Oh, geez, Pete, you're good at these questions, aren't you? That's a really amazing question. I think when somebody's diagnosed with cancer, it's always why me. And I think we've got two options when it comes to that, and it's sit back and take it, and be defeated, and not reach out and get help.
Mm.
Because don't forget, a cancer journey is, as much as it's individual to you, you can't do it alone. I think you need to reach out to friends, to family. I think you need to be emotionally aware that you know, things may not always be what you want, but you have to make a choice. And you know, do you let it beat it? Does it let it beat you, or do you do your best to fight it? And I know I'm in a very lucky position here where I survived cancer, and there's a lot of people out there who unfortunately have passed away, and I can very much relate to that. It took me a long time to get over my own father's death. We were extremely close, So when you say why, I think we got two options. One is, do you let it beat you, or do you fight as hard as you can? Believe in yourself, your capabilities, your mindset, your mentality, and push on through it, And this is where, after speaking about visualization briefly, this is where I started to set a few small little goals with visualization in mind. And to me, to set a goal for yourself, first of all, you have to create that goal. And we all create them every single day, loads of them. But a phone rings, or a text message comes through, or a WhatsApp joke comes in, and that little goal is gone. So I believe, and this is what, and I've used this and I use it regularly, I think you need to create it, and you almost need to become, or go to somebody and actually say, I'm going to do this, because then you have a responsibility. You have someone that's going to come back and ask you, did you ever do it? So I believe that setting a goal and telling somebody is important to fulfilling a goal. And with that, of course, it doesn't just happen. So you got to work towards it and work very hard towards it. I mean, I'm in the middle now of creating my own website, and I'm now writing up some blogs. And with the blogs, like, I kind of wrote a little bit, and I said, sure, that's not enough. And then I'm looking at someone else's blogs, and I'm listening to Fire in the Belly podcasts, and I'm thinking, well, that's kind of a blog, but it's a bit longer than I was expecting. And so I had to work very hard to get them kind of right. And some of the stuff I am writing about, blogging about, is some of the feelings I actually felt during it. And I'll give you a few of them in just a moment, just an idea of what I'm kind of looking at. So, with that, I fully intend to be a motivational and inspirational speaker going forward. I have a long way to go to being perfect. I don't want to be perfect, but I'd like to get close. But I'm working very hard to achieve this goal, and I've already looked forward to saying, what is my next goal? So I am setting goals, but there's always one bigger. So that's where I believe goal setting can actually get you, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. You made an interesting comment a while back saying, you had to believe in yourself more. Can you explain that?
Do you ever ask any easy questions? No.
What's your favorite pint?
Give me a pint of Carlsberg any day. Repeat that question for me, Peter. I'm kind of
just I think as you were saying, as you were going through it and trying to give you a context, and through the process, but you're saying part of the thing you almost consciously had to do was to believe in yourself more.
I think every single one of us believe in ourselves to a certain point. But I think we all face challenges that will kind of dent that belief. Sometimes we need encouragement, and I think there's a huge point we made about the power of encouragement when it comes to believing in yourself. Like, I had people saying, geez, Paul, you're doing extremely well. And I said, thanks. And that made me believe in myself a little bit more, because with a 6-month hospital stay, I started to worry about how would I manage when I left hospital, and just would I be able? And that's when I started to kind of step back and go, Paul, hang on a minute now. You have got here. You've got a mortgage. You've worked hard. You have a car under your bottom. You have a wonderful daughter. You have a great partner. You have a great family network. What have you not to believe in yourself for? So I needed constant reminders, and a lot of them were from myself, about believing in yourself, the power of belief, and the power that you're capable. To me, encouragement, being capable, self-belief, I almost think they're kind of knitted together in a certain way. And that's where encouragement to me helped with my belief, really, because I think our believing in yourself can be challenged by so many, whether it's financial or physical or mental. So it was the power of encouragement really that maybe helped me an awful lot to believe in myself. And I think that anybody who doesn't believe in themselves, I think it's quite natural. But I certainly believe that you all have the capabilities to be almost better versions of yourself, but it's certainly within you, you know. And if I can just cut across that for just a second before I kind of, it skips my mind. I believe every person on this earth is a hero. And I recently spoke with a group and they said, I'm not a hero. And I said, well, tell me how you're not a hero. Well, I don't do anything. I said, okay. And I said, do you play football with your brother or sister? I do. Are they younger or older than you? I said, they're younger. I said, so they look up to you. Yeah, you're a hero. And then I spoke to an elderly lady that evening. And I said, geez, do you know what? You are a hero. And she goes, why? She goes, I'm not a hero. I'm just myself. And I said, yes, but you're a hero. And she went, oh, why? I said, she goes, I'm not. I do nothing heroic. And I said, well, I think you do. And she goes, what? I said, when your grandkids come over to the house on a Thursday and a treat day is Saturday and like Sunday and you give them chocolate or ice cream. Yeah, I'm their granny. But what does that child think of their granny now with a bowl of ice cream? She went, stop. I said, you're a hero. Every person has the capability to be heroic in their own lives. Every single person. And I mean that. I was asked, you know, when I was told I was a hero, I said, how the hell am I a hero? I didn't believe that I was a hero in July or August 2018. And I said, how? They said, you're playing Connect 4 with your daughter and she's just beaten you. You are now a useless hero. You are now a useless hero, but you're a hero. And this is where I believe inner belief and self-belief are from because you are a hero and you're a good person. That's what I think.
Well, and do you now believe you're a hero?
Absolutely. I ask myself every day, are you ordinary or extraordinary? And ordinary is the stuff I used to do day by day and let us skim on by. Now I'm extraordinary because I believe I'm going to be open and honest. I'm going to talk to people and try to inspire them. I'm going to try and share my story of resilience to help people maybe change from my name into their name and help them by the stuff that I have learned through my cancer that might help them. So yeah, you know, I am a hero, no doubt. Pete, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How are you a hero?
By setting examples, by putting beliefs, by firing up people's passions and firing their belly.
Absolutely. Pete, I think maybe I should do an interview with you someday just for the crack.
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
Look forward to it.
What?
But it's the 10% extra. I believe I totally agree with you. You know, it's ordinary is great, but the extraordinary, that's special. The 10% extra.
There it is. You have just moved from ordinary to extraordinary, rather.
You know, take you back a bit if you don't mind, and this might be quite hard, but talk to us about Sienna through that time.
Pete, you're pulling at the heartstrings here. Look, I'm probably sickeningly proud of my daughter. I'm proud to be a father. I have never ever been as happy than when I'm with her. At this time, when I became ill, you know, I was meant to have Sienna that weekend, and I couldn't do it. But that weekend to me is like a blur. But a presentation I do brings up a picture of myself and my daughter very early on, and I'm sitting in the bed beside her, and I've got tubes hanging out of like my neck, and I think it's on day 9 after I went into hospital, and I have very little recollection of it. It was after that when I got a little bit stronger, and Sienna used to come up, and she used to come up the lift, and if I was strong enough, I'd meet her at the lift on the second floor in the Clad Ward in the University College Hospital, Galway, and she used to come in with a suitcase, and I often went, "Oh my God, I'm kind of weak enough here, but I'm doing my best to like lift it for 2 or 3 hours just to be as normal as I possibly can be." And she used to come in and she goes, Dad, can we play snakes and ladders? I went, absolutely. And I'd be half asleep and I'm nodding off halfway done. And then it was Connect Four, and then it was Uno, and then it was whatever else. And there was like a box of tricks here. And when I look back now, I can actually say, man, I fought really hard to even stay awake, to see her, to smile, to laugh, to cuddle her, to give her a kiss. And that became normal for 6 months. And when I got home on the few days, Sienna was only 7, and we used to sit on the couch and watch a movie. And it's only when you become your own surroundings where things should be normal that became a struggle for me, because they weren't normal. So Dad might have come home on a Friday and he's going back up on Sunday evening to be up in the hospital at 7 o'clock for admissions. So I had to walk away. Now, I wasn't driving at the time. So like my brother or my mum or my girlfriend used to see me crying, looking out the side window of the car, because the normal for that little bit of time I had at home was gone. It was almost like they gave it to you and they took it back. And nobody likes doing that with anything. Here, Pete, I'm going to give you an interview, but only for 10 minutes, not 20. Do you know, like it's only, and I felt like I was half a parent, and I found that exceptionally difficult. And when I come out of hospital, I was very, very weak, and I couldn't have her overnight for quite a period because I wasn't strong enough. I was just recovering, and that felt bad. But the last year, really, about that, we're kind of back to a normal routine, and I constantly tell her, Sienna, I hope you don't worry about me, because, and just to reassure her, I kind of say, cancer cannot beat your dad. Your dad is too strong, and that's just to fill her with the confidence that, worry about now, don't worry about what happened or what might happen. And at that age, I think that's really, really important. She's only 9 now, but she's a real thinker. So I just want to fill her up with buckets of confidence. And I do that every single day that I can, and I can see her thriving from that. So I feel like I'm back where I want to be, but probably only in the last couple of months, really, because like I've been up and down to the hospital. There's been numerous bone marrow biopsies taken and blood. So I'm up in the hospital once a month. So you're always on edge on that Monday or a Wednesday that I have these appointments. But believing in my own health has now got more and more and more so better. So yeah, I feel better now that I can give her a little bit more of my energy, and that's where I am now.
I mean, kids' ability and resilience is phenomenal.
It is exceptional. It's you know what, Pete? As an adult, we're actually jealous. They bounce back a hell of a lot quicker than we do.
I'm always surprised, when people sort of say with kids, it's such a beautifully simplistic way of looking at life. And you take away a lot of they're very black and white.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's yes or no answers, where a lot of adults go, sure, we might, and will we, and not today. The kids go, why not? And it's very hard to say to a child, give them a flippant answer, because they're very, very smart. And as we all know, they're very much like a sponge, and sponges don't let an awful lot go unless you squeeze them. And of course, you can't squeeze a child, obviously. But yeah, I mean, resilience. I mean, I actually think I learned a bit of resilience from my daughter. She used to come up, she used to go up smiling and leave smiling and sit in the car with either my mum or her own mum. And, she used to have tears in like her eyes because she didn't know when she was going to see dad again. So if she could do it, goddamn, I could do it.
Tell me about the spiritual side. I mean, would you describe yourself as religious or spiritual or?
Uh, I think I am. I mean, I wouldn't go to mass every Sunday or every Saturday. Um, I mean, Westport is a relatively small town, and the wishes and kind regards of people in this town were fantastic. I got a lot of relics, and I got a lot of a lot of mass cards, etc. So I wouldn't say I'm extremely religious. Spiritual, certainly. Yeah, look, I would have to say both, really, to be honest. That would be my whole take on it. Like, I don't really have a huge opinion on it, but I do believe that I was blessed, and I say that because my dad's anniversary mass was on the 9th, and I developed a black eye on that night. Was that a warning sign coming from my own father to go to the doctor to get seen? I have since gone to a medium, which I got a voucher for from a friend, and I went in to the medium, and like I was like, yeah, you know what, this is a load of waffle. And then I had to step back and like say, Jesus, you kind of thought a lot of stuff was waffle a year ago. So I said, what, go in with an open mind. And the stuff I got out of it was, I mean, next level. I spoke about my dad. I spoke about how he died, how he was jealous of me as a father, that I was a great dad and I gave so much time to my daughter, and an awful lot of stuff. But she made a reference to sometimes we need a little bit of a kick in the bottom. Now my dad would have like often said, if you don't cop on, you get a kick in the arse. I don't know if I didn't cop on, but I certainly got a kick in the arse to go to the doctor, and I think had that was somebody saying, "Have your back," and even saying that is quite emotional because myself and my dad were very alike. I think I parent very much like him, where I'm a little bit cautious and I worry a lot. That would have been dad, so I didn't turn out too bad. So I'm hoping I can make a big difference to my daughter's life through my father.
Essentially, I mean, if the black guy hadn't happened,
Yeah, I don't think I'd be here, Pete, because I think I'd have kind of sat out Thursday and Friday and said, if I'm a bit better on, or if I'm no better, I'll go up on Monday. And I have myself and my girlfriend have asked that a question. If I had hung on, they said if you'd hung on another 24 hours, you wouldn't have lasted 24 hours. So so that's when you can look back afterwards and actually go, you know what, that's pretty deep stuff. Um, so the black guy was the kick in the arse.
do you understand it all? I mean, you sort of say there's bits there where you've almost lost memories and things like that. I mean, have or I'm trying to understand, is it a process that you almost have to piece it all back together again and understand it, or do you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to be honest with you, my girlfriend has pieced a lot of my life from May to October 2018. The scientific side of it, she's kind of spoke about to me. I listen to some of it. I don't listen to others because I have no background in science, or toxicology or bloods or whatever. Um, so she has pieced an awful lot of it together. Like, it came to a stage where I said something to her recently. She went, "No, no, 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 no. oh, that didn't happen until, say, week 7 or like 8. I'm thinking, oh, did that happen on the second week? So it did become a blur, and that's where I think that I shut down. Like, I didn't Google the word leukemia until last November, which is 13 months after leaving hospital, because I didn't want to know. Like, and that's where I brought it back to, I trust in the medical people, not just because I don't have like a choice, because I had a choice, I could have said no. I trust the people around me are going to do the right things by me, and they're going to protect me. I trusted that my daughter's mum would do the right thing by her, in the sense of maybe not sending her up to me or bringing her up to me at the right time or wrong time, and there's a lot of respect shown that way, which I'm really grateful for. Um, but yeah, I mean, even now, some of my life doesn't add up day by day from that period. But I don't need to know everything that happened, because selective forgetfulness can often benefit the kind of mind, really. So I don't think it's a bad thing.
No, interesting. You mentioned karma.
Yeah. Uh, Look, I don't know an awful lot about karma, but what I do believe is that good things come to those who do good things. Um, I don't believe in bad. I think bad karma can often be a lesson that either you can change or you don't change. Um, I don't think karma had anything to do with me getting cancer, because I've done an awful lot wrong to go through that journey. But what it might have done for me is it might have given me the encouragement to push on, to come on a podcast like Fire in the Belly, to go and stand up in front of 100 people in like a room, reasonably confidently, if a bit anxious along the way, to go and tell my story and be open and honest with it. I mean, some people say, "Geez, you're awful honest," and I said, "Well, you're either honest or you're not. The middle ground, to me, is where people kind of get caught out. You're either authentic or you're not. And if you're going telling a story, tell it all. Don't tell half." Particularly when you stand up in front of a live audience. Like, it'll be different if you're doing, like an online course or something, which I'm hoping to do in my future, where you can bring people slowly through a lesson about what I've learned from cancer, to hopefully help other patients who maybe might take some of the tools that I used. But if karma's going to give me something, it's going to give me the encouragement to push on and hopefully make a difference to many people's lives in the future.
So what's your status now then?
My status at the moment is I still go to hospital once a month. So it's once for just to meet with a consultant and just have a chat. He'll do a blood test and chat how like things are going. I still get exceptionally tired very, very quickly. And even though I'm like, close to 18 months out of hospital now, it did take me, a good year to get back to maybe 80% of who I was, mentally and physically. I still have a bone marrow biopsy every 8 weeks, which is a pastime that people should ignore if at all possible. That's not very pleasant, but it has kept me in fantastic health again, or got me back there rather, and that's a close monitoring. So that's very, very important that I don't miss those appointments. October 2018, when I left hospital, and I'll go back to this for just a second, because this was when I was told it's every 8 weeks of biopsy, every 4 weeks you come up and see the consultant, and the importance of not missing, and an appointment. And I remember the day that they came into the room. And if people can just picture, do you know those chairs that you sit in like a hospital room? It's a blue chair with the kind of two brown side rails on it. And I'm sitting down, and I think I'm just putting on my flip flops or something. And the team of doctors and nurses come in, and they're all smiling. And I went, Jesus, somebody's having a good morning here. And they were like, yeah, we have some news for you. Yeah, your recent results came back, and we've had a meeting, and you're going home this afternoon. I went, what? Oh my God. I said, that's incredible. And the excitement that ran through me is something I would never forget. It was like an electric shock from my head to my toes. It was wonderful. And they were congratulating me, and there was some nurses hugging me, and it was just like what an incredible time. And there was genuinely people saying, Paul, this has been a journey. You're at this stage, you're like part of the furniture, and all of a sudden you're going home. Congratulations. And they walk out, and I go, whew. So I jump up and go to get my suitcase in the locker, and I just stop and I sit down, and I say, wow, phew. And every bit of excitement is drained out of me. And I put my head in my hands, and I actually, it's kind of something in my throat here. It's kind of blocking me at the moment. Actually, you just get caught up in emotionally sometimes. You kind of head in like the hand, and I'm looking down at my blue Adidas flip flops, and there's tears bouncing off them. And I'm sitting there for about 25 minutes or 30 minutes, and I'm crying. I can't stop. But the tears are not of happiness. The happiness is totally gone at this stage. And there was a cleaner come into the room, and she went, Paul, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. And she left. And I went into like the bathroom and looked in the mirror, and I looked at myself, and I asked myself a question. I said, why are you so upset? It was fear. And I had to go back to that same mirror that gives me all these wonderful answers. And I said, fear, what am I afraid of? The support network that had now protected me for 6 months, and I'd done all the right things, and any pain I had, or any slight niggle I had, I pressed a bell. And that support network with a medical background had now left me completely. And that was an emotional time where I literally went, wow, this journey is not over. But I'm in a far better place now, Pete. And I think that once people have a little bit of patience and belief in themselves and belief in their medical team and belief that people are doing the right thing by them, I think it gives us a little bit more of a chance, maybe even 10%.
You mentioned there about situational depression.
Yeah.
It's a great term. Can you describe it?
Oh, look, yeah. I actually think I really can. I don't have a mental health issue, and I don't believe I ever have had. We've all had days where we've been down, or we've been a little bit sad, and we felt sorry for ourselves. But that comes down to life and genes and all sorts of stuff. Situational depression for me was because of the period I had within the hospital surroundings, and I did laps and laps of like the hospital ground day after day, week after week when I was able. But there was a huge amount of nights, Pete, and I say this to people, and they kind of struggle with me because I'm quite a bubbly personality and I'm a bit of a mess and a joker and whatever. Is that I cried myself to sleep many nights, and I had to ask myself, and I believe in talking to yourself just a little bit, so you can talk out your own problems. I think people might block their own problems in, and I'm very much the kind of opposite, really, where I believe that I was getting more sad and more sad, and it almost became like cabin fever, because when you're stuck in this room and all you have is a toilet and a TV, and your food been handed up to you, not Michelin star standard by any means, not by a long way. Um, you become very, very, very sad, and you become like there was kind of periods, Pete, where I'd be waiting for my mum or my girlfriend or my brothers to come up and visit me. And by the way, there's only one day in 6 months that I was in hospital that I didn't have a visitor. So I've got a great family around me. You know, I mean, like they were just so powerful to me. But there was days, and there was one particular day where I asked my mum to come up, and she came up and she brought up my washing, which was handy to have actually. It was great to have a washer. Um, and she come up and she was no sooner in the door, didn't even get her bum on the seat, and I said, "Do you not want to go for a cup of coffee?" And she said to me, "I don't know." And I said, "You know what? I kind of think you should go for a coffee." So she went for a coffee, and she went to visit another patient in the hospital, a friend of hers, and she came back about an hour later, and I remember saying, "Where were you?" And within 20 minutes, I said, "You know, I want to go and get a sandwich for yourself." So she went. So I wanted people to be there, but when they were there, I just wanted them to be close. And this is where I said to myself, wow, this is a pretty lonely place to be. And it was only after a number of weeks where I realized I'm getting lower and lower and lower here. And the fun, Paul, was like gone. And it wasn't because of your illness, it was because of your mood. And the guilt I felt for my daughter, and the guilt I felt for people having to drive up to Galway on one of the worst roads in the country. It's horrendous. Um, I just think it all began to overpower me. And there was one particular Sunday where, you don't get released out of what I call Shawshank, which was the hospital ward. Um, like it had to be obviously for administration reasons, like between Monday and Friday to be let out for a break. And I was nearly going stir crazy. And my girlfriend come up and she goes, "What's up?" And I just said, I just can't handle this. I can't handle being in here without my daughter, without going out to Salt Hill for a walk. Everything just began to overpower me completely. And this is where I realized that I was in a low place mentally, and that's where I believe I had depression because of the situation I was in. And I don't say that lightly, because mental health is extremely serious. And I have a very close relationship with it. Not myself, but with somebody very, very close to me. So I believe it. I'm not being a bit flippant about it, and I just think that if I can help anybody with anything, um, when it comes to mental health, or I can send them in the right direction, I absolutely will. But that was just how I felt at that time. I
One
hope
of the, sorry, say it again.
I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. And one of the emotions I don't believe you sort of mentioned is anger.
Um, No, I never felt angry. I got cancer. I felt angry about not being allowed out of like the hospital when I wanted to get home for a couple of days. But that was an emotion, not an anger. Sorry, it was a frustration rather than an anger. Like people have said to me, "Geez, Paul, you're an inspiration." I said, "I'm not really. I just handle it the way I kind of handle a lot of things. I don't, particularly now. I don't let things get on top of me too much. Anger, I never felt angry I got cancer. I questioned it, but I never got angry that it was me. And I have said since, rightly or wrongly, that if I could take, uh, for God forbid, say my daughter, if she got it, I'd take it off her and I'd fight it. But that's easy for me to say because I've been there and fought it. But no, I don't think I ever felt anger, Pete. No, I really don't. I kind of took it as I'm glad it's me and not somebody closer to me.
Looking back, I mean, what would you say was the hardest part or the lowest part for you?
I go back to my daughter. Yes, there was difficult days and there was operations there where I couldn't get knocked out and they were extremely sore. As I said, that's only part-term pain. As I often say to my daughter or my stepdaughters, pain is temporary, and I mean that. Emotional pain is a bit more different than physical pain because it often lasts a little bit longer. But no, my daughter not having a full-blown relationship with my daughter, I felt guilty for her seeing me in hospital, which I couldn't control. But you still feel like, geez, I kind of don't want her to see me in this way in case it affects her. So yeah, it all goes back to my daughter, really, Pete.
Bit of a change. What would you say is your power?
Is my power?
Hmm.
Oh man,
I didn't say it was going to be easy, by the way.
and you're actually keeping up to that promise. I can tell you that. What's my power? Wow. I think I have the power to change somebody's mindset through the adversity that I faced. I really, really do. Like some of the feedback, for instance, that I have received has been quite extraordinary.
Mm.
I mean, people say, "Jesus, I never thought about it that way," and oh my God, you've been through such a journey. And my parent or my grandparent has cancer now. I can't wait to go home and I tell them they need to believe in themselves a little bit more. So if I have a superpower, I guess my superpower is that I'm not afraid to talk about my own experience, and I do believe I can make a difference.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I'd openly say, I mean, I heard you speak at the Make It Happen event,
Yeah.
and I can't even, was that this year, last year? I can't even remember now.
February 8th.
There you go. And you were the first man on.
Yeah, no pressure.
No pressure. And I can honestly say, in the room, you would have heard a pin drop.
That I got that opportunity from Pat Slattery and Donna Kennedy at the Make It Happen event. It was unexpected. I had considered asking if they'd take a chance on me, and I was still thinking about it. Just saying, you know what? If you don't ask, you don't get. So I was considering the option. So if Pat Slattery ever listens to this, he's going to find out that was in my thought process. But he rang and he offered me it, and I said absolutely. I said if I'm willing to be a speaker, I need to step in with some of the big boys. And Pat is very, very well known. And it's only when I got up there and I looked around the room and I seen people there, you, and I seen some of the other big speakers there. I'm going, oh, okay, am I out of my depth here a small bit? So I went up to my room in the hotel and I just said, I'm not taking any notes. And I had written out loads of notes and I'd scrapped them, and I was kind of panicking a small bit because of the room. And I said, you know what, Paul? Be yourself. Because if people don't like you for who you are, that's them to judge you. So be yourself. As it happens, the feedback has been, phenomenal. I don't think anybody was expecting it. I remember standing at the back of that room that day, or that morning, and there's two guys sitting down, and they said, "Who the hell is this Paul Coghlan guy?" And I just kind of walked off because I was thinking, I'm not going to introduce myself because I didn't know them, and I was a little bit nervous, and I don't think anybody was expecting me to lie bare on stage in front of people I don't know, and for people maybe to bring that home, to bring some of the tools I used home, to maybe realize how lucky they are. That's another thing that I'm very, very proud of. And that event in itself has given me encouragement to, do the blogs, do the online course in the future, and to hopefully get out, get my name out there, and for people to come and take a chance by emailing me on hello@paulcoghlan.ie. spelled Coghlan, not the Cork way, which is Cough.
Mm-hmm. No, you.
No, you.
It's I know, even like I said, at the time at the event, I mean, I was speechless at the time, and this is a particular interview I've been looking forward to doing with yourself, you know, and honestly, I would thank you so much for sharing so much. Um,
Pleasure.
to explain, or to to come back, I mean, if you said, fire in the belly, what does that mean to you?
It excites me because it reminds me of something when I was younger about being hungry for success. I've been hungry, I've been passionate about doing something that means something to you that can affect others. To me, that's what fire in the belly is.
Hmm.
Being hungry. Go and chase it and chase down Pete's fire in the belly.
Love it.
That's what I think.
So, Paul, just give us the website again. How can people reach out? How can people follow you?
So I'm on Paul Coghlan, motivational speaker on Facebook. And my website is www.paulcoghlan.ie. And you can get me on hello@paulcoghlan.ie. And I'm in the middle of doing of making up a lot of blogs. The blogs are, like from the hospital is, stress and anxiety about being tired and lethargic, about feeling like you're wasting time when it's really your body's way of resetting, and all of this stuff. And I believe all these will be tools to maybe help another cancer patient, or maybe even mental health sufferers, that yes, they can come into my website, they can look at these blogs, and maybe they can use some of these tools to help them along their way, or even their families, because relationships can struggle through cancer. That's both with your personal relationship with your partner or your family, brothers, sisters, etc. But there are stresses and strains there, and I totally believe that this will help if people want to reach out, or if anybody wants to reach out to me to have a little chat. My phone number is Irish Mobile 086 3515 977. And just to finish off, Pete, on my side, if you don't mind, is I want to thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been exceptional. You've kind of drawn some stuff out of me today that I didn't even know was in there. So you're obviously very, very good at your job. But I often finish off my part by saying, if somebody doesn't believe in their own 10% and maybe fighting a little bit harder for a career change, or whether it's a sporting event, or whether it's a family relationship, or your own personal relationship, or children, is that if I didn't believe in my own 10%, my girlfriend Linda wouldn't have her best friend. My mother wouldn't have her favorite son. She has 3 others that are not really that important. I'm only messing. And most importantly, my daughter wouldn't have a father. But believe in your 10%. It really does work.
Paul, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
I look forward to following up this story in years to come and see where you've gotten to.
Absolutely, Pete. I look forward to meeting you in person, hopefully.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.